Hey, how are y'all doing? Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. So I wanted to talk about this case because this is so common and so I don't know, it just feels like it's something that I have heard about all my life, this type of case. Different places I've lived and different scenario, people in my family, and I just want to kind of talk about it and see y'all thoughts. My name is Diamond. I go live every Friday, usually around 7 o'clock. I'm a little late today, but I've been busy, so I had to come in a little late. But yes, so this case is out of Detroit, and it is hey Java, hey Nova, good afternoon. Hey T Turner, um, hey, good. Thank you. I hope you thumbs up as you come in. This case is out of Detroit. It is about a 13-year-old girl um, by the name of Naziah. Hey, Miss Polk. Naziah Harris. Um, about 9 months ago, like in January, her grandmother, they saw her get off of her school bus because the bus is recorded. Um, they saw her get off her school bus, but she didn't come home. And so the grandma called the police and was like, "Yo, what's the tea? Where's my daughter? She's missing. My granddaughter, she's missing." And so nobody could find her. So for 9 months, they haven't been able to find her. But this week, they have brought on charges from her aunt's boyfriend, Javaris Butts. So apparently, they were texting each other. Now she's 13 and he's 41. And he asked her to send him some new pictures of her. And after he sent new pictures to her, and she sent new pictures of herself to him. So there was a conversation between them that was super inappropriate. A 41-year-old man and a 13-year-old girl who was the niece of his girlfriend. So in the text messages that has been going on since 2022, what the investigators find out is that they have had a sexual relationship and that she informed him that she hadn't had her period and that she was pregnant. And so he tells her that he wanted to meet up with her after school, and apparently he picked her up when she got off of her school bus, and they checked into a hotel and she disappeared. So in his search history, what they found out was he was searching about abortions and things that could, like antifreeze and stuff that can make to induce an abortion and blah blah blah. All of this was before he, after he found out that she was pregnant, but before she came up missing. And so they have brought charges on him. But the crazy part about this whole scenario is that this ain't the first time that he is molesting a girl. Like her aunt knew that he was a sex offender. This he has like multiple sex offender cases on his roster that people know about. That he went to prison for one and got out. And everybody around this little girl, this 13-year-old girl, knew that that was his background, including her aunt. So I'm sitting here in my brain really trying. Wait, y'all. Not only did they know that this was a pedo, people had already called CPS about it. So even CPS knew what was going on. So in my brain, I am just sitting there like, y'all failed this little girl. And I'm gonna send y'all the link. I'm gonna give y'all the link so y'all can go look at these people and see what they look like. Because when looking at this dude, he looks like a pretty boy. Got long hair, like a pretty little light skinned boy. Not boy, man. He's not a boy, he's a man. And here's another one. I think this is of the this one is of the prosecutors laying out all the details of why he was arrested, the proof that they had. And so I'm like, y'all just letting this nigga run around and molest y'all daughters? And this ain't the first time. This is like multiple girls that he has molested. Like he actually go after girls, women who have children. That's wild to me. It's so wild to me. Not because I don't believe it, not that I don't know that it happens. Because I remember when I was younger, I have a these are people that are connected to me by marriage. So my brother, but this isn't her daughter. They don't live in the house with this girl. This is her aunt. So this isn't a jealous situation. This is it is amazing, astounding how many that is. But this isn't a situation where they live in the same house together. This is her niece. Don't they She lives with her grandmother and the aunt lives in her own place with this man. So they're connected in that way, but not in a way where they live together, where there's like a jealousy aspect of it. Um but I have saw those ex guardian. I have saw those kind of scenarios too. Um so my mother is the only child, but she was raised with four of her cousins and they all were raised by their grandmother. So they were raised in the same house. So they're technically cousins, but they treat each other like brother and sister. So there is three girls and two boys. Out of the three girls, one is dark, the other two is light. Out of the boys, one is dark, the other is light. I come from a color struck in the South. We call it a color struck family where, colorism is real and strong in our family. So light is right, dark is bad. Um, until you get to like a one of the darker generations, and then they would have taught about colorism. So my mom is the darkest of the girls. And so when and then her brother, my uncle Billy, is the darkest of the boy. And so my grandmother, she mistreated all of them, but the darker ones she would mistreat more often. And my mother would tell me stories about how she would get whoopings or take whoopings, voluntarily take whoopings so the other girls wouldn't be harmed, or uncles around my great grandmother, my mother's grandmother, they were touching on the girls, and it just was a horrible, abusive, from physical abusive to sexual abusive. It just was a horrible situation for my mother and her cousins. Um so anyway, my uncle Billy, the darker brother, him and my mother, because of that kind of colorist bull BS that's happening in my mom's family, they get really, really close. My mom, because she's a darker girl, he's a darker boy, and so they get really, really close. And as they get older and more independent, my mom gets pregnant, has me. She gets low income housing, and because of my brothers, not my brothers, her brothers were taken away from my grandmother because of the abuse. My great grandmother, which I'll have to tell y'all this story another time because there's more details about this story, but that's a whole other long story. My great grandmother, great grandmother, um, basically my grandmother's mother, went to prison for killing a 6-year-old boy. So that's a whole other story. I'll tell y'all that another time. But when she got indicted for the murder, there's it's a nuanced story. But when she got indicted for the murder, it brought her into investigation with her grandchildren, the five grandchildren that I just was telling y'all about. And so it exposed her abuse of all of them. Like she was schizophrenic. So her schizophrenia was rooted in the Bible. So she always was reading the Bible and quoting scriptures and bring in, like, she would keep them up reading scriptures and but beating them. And I remember my mother was telling me that she had hung my uncle Billy up in the garage, um like Jesus, and was whooping his tongue with a water hose that she cut off, like making him stick out his tongue and hitting it. This is the horrific thing. I'm just giving you one small of there's many incidents like this that my mother and her cousins lived through. And so, and my mother being the oldest. And so when she comes up under investigation and all the children testify on what was happening to them, she goes to prison for the murders, and they ask some time for child endangerment and blah 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 blah. And so my mother, who is old enough to get out and go with her mother, the she does go with my mom. And no, they never got therapy. They couldn't afford it. They were poor and young, and their parents weren't responsible. That's why they were living with their grandmother. Um so my mother ended up going with her mom, who is it was out of the frying pan into the skillet, because my mom went with her mom. And now my mom was in a situation where Guardian was talking about, where there was some jealousy going on with my mom and her mom, because my grandmother's boyfriends were liking my mom. She was a young 13-year-old girl, and they were fucking pedophiles. But instead of my grandmother nipping it in the butt, um, she almost didn't believe my mom. But it was strange. It wasn't just about didn't believe. I think she believed her, but instead of holding the dudes accountable, she basically made my mama get her own place, basically. And so my mama got her own place because she had me. So, so, okay. So my mama got her own place. The other children, the boys and my mother's girl cousins, they went in separate places. The two boys went into group homes. The two girls, one went with, where did Sabrina go? I don't remember where Sabrina goes. Sabrina was a baby, so I don't remember where she went. But she went with somebody. Whoever her father was, she went with her father's people. Um, Same thing with the other girl, Tang. Tang went with her father people, which was in Chicago. So this is how they all separated. The two boys went to the group homes. The two girls, one went with their different fathers, and my mom had her own place. So once my mom got her own place, the boys in the group home was like, "Fuck this, we about to go to Moochie's place," because she was the oldest sibling, technically their cousin, but in the same house. So that's our older sister. And so when she got her own place, they was like, "Fuck this shit, we about to move in with Moochie," which is my mom. And so they moved in with us. And so these are the uncles, if y'all remember in some of my stories, that I'd be like, I had two uncles, one White Mike and Billy. Billy was the older, darker one, and White Mike, we call him White Mike because he was so fucking light skinned that if he cut all his hair is what let you know that he was a nigga. But if he cut all his hair off, he just looked like a bald head white man. That's how white he was. We called him White Mike. Now his vernacular, how he moved, was like a regular black man, but you knew, like, if you heard him talk and let his hair grow out, you can tell that this ain't no regular, this ain't no white man. But if he just sat there and didn't move and cut all his hair off and he was just bald, you would think he was a white man. So we called him White Mike. Um, so these are the ones that Billy was the one that would not do anything to me. Like, he almost ignored me because I was so queer. It almost was like I didn't exist. It wasn't any negative, but it wasn't any positive either. It was almost like this little fag. Now, White Mike, total opposite. White Mike was the type that'll punch you in your chest and punch you and hit you. Stop acting like a fag. Mm-mm. So if you've heard that story from me, these are my two uncles who were very, very abusive to me. Um, so um, so yeah, so that give you the lineage of abuse. So you had my great grandmother who abused them all, and then she went to prison, and they all spread out, and then my two uncles moved in with us. So when I was young, who lived with us was my youngest brother's father and my mother's brothers, my mother's two brothers. All of them were crazy, violent, abusive, from my youngest brother's father to these two. Now, my Uncle Billy was not violent to me at all. So he wasn't violent to me. But White Mike was. So anyway, I'm giving you all this history so you can understand the connection to everybody. White Mike, well, not White Mike, Billy, the darker one that was closest to my mother, he started dealing with this Muslim girl named Tanya. So he started dealing with her. They fell in love. And so what she became to me as a little kid, this is my Aunt Tanya. Tanya would come over. She was cool with my mom. She started having babies by my Uncle Billy. So they end up having three children. So to me, in my life, this is my Aunt Tanya. If you go back to my story about when I got custody of my brother, and I shared with y'all that my grandmother, because she was doing drugs, I had to get my brother from my grandmother. Like, if you listen to our story, I had to get my brother from my grandmother. When my grandmother kicked us out because I took custody of him, I didn't have nowhere to go with my brother, and it was in the middle of winter. My Aunt Tanya is who we stayed with. This is my Uncle Billy's baby mama. My Uncle Billy in 1989 gets murdered by somebody. We don't know who he gets murdered by, but he gets murdered by somebody. And so this is 2 years after my other uncle get murdered by the police. So in my Michael Taylor, if you search Indianapolis Michael Taylor, caused a riot. He was basically the George Floyd of the 80s. Um, yes, Aunt Tanya was nice and beautiful. And if you want to follow her, you can follow her. Her name is Tanya Collier here on YouTube, and she does miniatures. So you know how people do miniature houses and miniature things, like they do sculptures. It's like sculptures, but they make like houses, like Barbie dream houses, but they build them all themselves. My Aunt Tanya does miniatures, so her name is Collier Miniatures on here. If you want to follow her, she will love it. She's so sweet and so nice. But if you're not into miniatures, then you probably wouldn't want to follow it. But it's her hobby. She's older now, and she does um it was tons of people nice. I'm just giving y'all the backstory. It was other nice people. um my mom was nice. My mom was nice. So and my Uncle Billy, he didn't abuse me. But yes, this is I'm getting she was the one who let us come stay with her until I got on my feet, and you know what I'm saying? She was the one who's kind of come in and saved the day when I first got custody of my brother. So yeah, so my Aunt Tanya, this is my connection to her. She had 3 children by my Uncle Billy, which is technically my mom's cousin, but they were raised together like brother and sister. So it's like my uncle, but technically my mom's cousin. So anyway, call you miniatures. Is it spelled correctly? I want to give her a follow. Let me see if I can find it. Mm-mm. It's C, the letter C, miniatures. Miniatures. Hidden. She has an interview on the news saying hidden Black history of Dr. Collier. She has a holistic doctor where she's doing miniatures. So yeah, see miniatures. I hope that let me I'll actually link. Duh. There's the link. She would love a follow. She doesn't have a lot of followers because it's such a niche. Um, her doing miniatures is such. It's not a lot of Black people in miniatures. It's really a white, very white hobby. Like when she goes to different like shows and all kinds of stuff. Like it's usually nothing but white people there. She was like, it's a couple of Black people, but she was like, it's not a lot. And so when she go to like collectibles and estate fate shows, it's so cute. It's so cool. When you go to her house, she has like whole little houses inside. Like she got this haunted house theme. Um, she got she just has all of these miniatures. It's so cute. Yeah, she would love it. She would love it. Thank y'all. I think that's so sweet. Thank y'all. But anyway, so my Aunt Tanya, she has a why I'm telling you all of this. So this is my Aunt Tanya. So she's the one who has kind of saved the day. She's always been sweet. Anytime I go back to Indianapolis, I go visit her. Always sweet. She's also the woman who introduced me to Ifa, the religion I practice. She's also she just a beautiful woman. She's just a beautiful family oriented woman. She just one of them, she's the big mama of her family now that she's gotten older. She's a cool auntie. She used to be a stripper. So she one of them down ass chicks who like, who live life, and she's like, I ain't judging nobody. I fucks with everybody. You know what I'm saying? I may be ignorant to stuff, but I ain't never gonna judge you. I ain't never gonna turn you away. She just one of them ladies that's just like open and loving and sweet and just wonderful. Just a wonderful woman. Yeah, that's who she is. So she has a brother. And when I was staying with her, I met one of her nieces. And they used to come over, and her niece was really, really young, but she had a baby. And I was like, ooh, you had your baby young. Not judging, because I come from a teenage mom, but it's just one of them things that when you meet somebody that is so young and they got a baby, it's kind of shocking a little bit. It's like you want to know what was the nature of you having this baby, because you're young and this baby is like such and such. And so such and such years old. So in order for you to have a baby at this age, you had to be like 10. And so it wasn't like, ooh, this is a 16-year-old having baby. This is a 12-year-old, 12, 13-year-old with a 2-year-old baby. And so you like, what was going on here? But I was 22 and dealing with my own shit with trying to find a place to stay. So you think it, but you don't want to be in people's business, so you don't really say nothing. But eventually, the conversation is going to come out. So that's what ended up happening. When she would come over, we would talk about the baby, because she had a little girl, and I would do the little girl's hair, and so the conversation came up to where we were talking about the conception of her baby, and the room got weird. Where I'm like, there's clearly something going on that is strange that don't nobody want to talk about, but it keeps coming up. And because we are kind of, I don't want to say we strangers, but we strangers to her. My aunt Tanya know who I am in regards to our connection to her, but this is their blood relative. So we are strangers to her. So it's kind of like it would come out, because it's nothing but family in the room except for me and my little brother. And it'll be like they'll be talking about it, and then when it is like in their brain, they're like, oh, it's this is house business, this is family business that these people don't know. Does that make sense? So it started to be where, but that they were comfortable with us, so it'll start coming out and talking about it. But then when it gets to where the details is about to come out, you can tell the room gets to squirming. That I'm trying to give y'all a description of how it would go down. It would be like started to talk about it openly, but because when people realize that this is an uncomfortable conversation that we might not be talking openly about, um, it started getting weird. So you would get tidbits, and I'm not a prior, so I don't really be just prying. But eventually, my cousin end up just saying, "Honey, they don't want to talk about it, but I'll tell you." And so basically, she tells me that Tanya's brother, Tanya's brother, um, was actually molesting his own daughter, which was the girl, and she got pregnant by her father at 10. And so he's actually in prison. So I knew her brother was in prison, but I didn't know what he was in prison for. So I thought he was out here selling drugs and robbing and da 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 da. I didn't know that he went to prison for molesting his daughter. And he would call Tanya from the prison. So I'm not thinking none of what is revealed to me is being revealed to me. I'm like, oh, I'm thinking, niggas get locked up for doing drugs or selling drugs, and or whatever. They out here robbing the street life. So I'm thinking he in prison for street life. This nigga's in prison for for molesting. I don't want to say her name, but yeah, this person. I was like, how devastating. Because in my mind, I'm like, first of all, molestation is horrible anyway. But then your own father? Oh my God. And so in that scenario, it was a bunch of things that was so fucking weird to me about the scenario. That you still engaging the complex nature of you, my aunt Tanya still caring for her niece, like being there for her niece, but also still caring for her brother because this is her brother, and her balancing that, like the her balancing the care of these two people, you doing this horribly wrong thing, and I have to still be there for your daughter because this is my niece and she's being forced to have this baby. Cuz that was another thing that the family didn't believe in abortion. And so her at 10 years old, now this is years ago. This isn't now where we're talking about abortion rights and da 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 da. And we see in 10-year-olds, even to this day, being molested by family members and being forced to carry babies to term. This was a black girl who was going through that when I was 22 and she was 13. And she had just been forced to, at 10, to have a baby because her father was molesting her because her family didn't believe in abortion, which is, which is why I, my own personal, even though I'm not a birthing person, this is things that got me into dealing with the complications of abortion rights and how complicated situations and scenarios. It's like it can exacerbate the problem. It can exacerbate so many things. And so imagine being 10 years old, being molested by your father for who knows how long, and then you getting pregnant. And add on to that, when you have the baby, when you're forced to have the baby, the fear of a 10-year-old having a baby, the fear of that. But then when you have the baby, your caretakers, your mom, they start treating you, they start treating you like you were a promiscuous teenage girl who had a baby just for being promiscuous. So start saying, that's your baby. You need to take care of it. You can't go out and do no fun stuff because you got a baby to take care of. So not that I think that this is right anyway. And even if she was out here laying it low, even if she was out here laying it low, I think if y'all choose to have if she chooses to have the baby, then the baby is here. The responsibility is everybody in the family. We supposed to be taking care of children like a village. But there are some people that's like, you was out here spreading your legs, so you need to be taking care of your child. These are the decisions. When you make that decision and you have a baby, you can't be going to this. You can't be going to that because you got a baby, unless you got a babysitter. And da da da. You get what I'm saying? There's a tone that people kind of give people who have babies when they're out here having sex earlier than people think that they should. They were giving her that tone. That mindset is a hot mess, but it's even more of a hot mess when you're talking about a 10-year-old who was being molested by her father. Why are you playing her like that? I don't think you should be playing any young person like that, but especially when y'all have failed this little girl and in protecting her, but you also have failed, you have forced her to have a baby instead of letting her get an abortion. but then you like, oh, you can't do nothing because you got a baby to take care of. That all was fucking me as a 22-year-old hearing the story and hearing what was going on. It wasn't fair. It was disgusting. It was weird. It was um because even her coming over to the house, over to Tanya's house, there was a lack of freedom that she had because she was coming over with a 2-year-old baby. She couldn't even she couldn't even come over to the house for some freedom because people in her own household wouldn't watch the baby, or it just it was just very, very complicated. And everybody's response to it in their own mental health. You interviewed Tanya on your channel before, right? No, never. I interviewed my Ia, who I was introduced to by Tanya. We have the same spiritual mother, me and Tanya. I interviewed my Ia. Did the baby have disabilities? No. That's only it can happen, but it doesn't always happen. No, the baby is gorgeous. First of all, she's fucking gorgeous. First of all, it's just a gorgeous baby. Um, that looks, which is very weird. It looks just like the father and mother. She looked just like her mother, because what else you gonna look like? You come from your grandfather, and your mother is your mother and your sister. So you ain't got a lot of genes to pull from to look different from your mama. So she literally looks just like her mama because she's made by basically the same gene pool. She looked just like her mother. So I say all of that is in what is crazy is I'm always finding this happened like multiple times. Um, it's kind of like the movie Precious. Yeah, kind of. Um, that's why when people was talking about Precious, like this is trauma porn. There's nobody living like this. I'm like, you don't know how evil this world can be. Like I literally know people who live this life. You are crazy. And so as we were talking about some of these scenarios, my aunt Tanya told me that the same thing happened to her, except she didn't get pregnant. That somebody, one of her mother's boyfriends, was molesting her, and her mother didn't believe her. And so I'm like, what? Now, mind you, her mother would come over to the house. And so I'm getting all of these new connections to this particular family. And then as these things are revealing, I'm learning things about these people that just feels like, what? So her mother would come over with the kids and be this amazing grandmother. But then my aunt Tanya tells me that when her man was molesting her, she wouldn't believe her, and they fell out for a very long time in there. And she put her out. She put my aunt Tanya out, and she said, "So I had to go in the streets because my mother didn't believe that her man was molesting me and didn't support me in the situation." And she was like, "So I was out here in the streets. I ended up having two babies, and then I meet your Uncle Billy, and um fell in love with him and had three children by him." So yeah. So I'm just coming off a cold, y'all, so I've been coughing. I have congestion. Um, but I'm drinking some delicious mint tea that I have put some mucilin in, because mucilin is like it's like for lung health. And you put like a dropper in some tea or some water. But it's been wearing me out. Uh, I thought it might have been COVID because of the congestion and the fever and the headache. But I took a COVID test and I didn't have COVID. So it could be just a regular, degular cold. But yes, so I'm hearing all of this stuff. Then, so I'm sitting there like amazed at like all the details and the interpersonal relationships and things that will go on and talked about, and because that happened when my aunt was so young, and then now their relationship, how I'm coming in on a time in their life when they have gotten over it, technically, like they're back talking and back building a relationship with each other, but some of that tension still comes up, especially when you have a granddaughter, aka my aunt Tanya's niece, that has been molested by your son, and we see the evidence in the baby, and you're dealing with that. But remember when I told you that your man was molesting me? This is exactly what happened with me, except it wasn't my father. It was my mama's boyfriend. And you see that the tension that would come up in the conversation, and the guilt, and the making excuses, and so I'm in this situation just kind of like, whoa, because there would come arguments would come up when um when I'm there and just kind of listening and watching them navigate this without the tools. Pretty Fly Dreads keeps bringing up therapy, and this just it wasn't. We are recently getting into finding therapy to be important and a tool for healthy relationships. But back in the day, therapy was considered white people stuff. You talk to people about your problems. You go into some white people to talk about your problems. You don't tell people about your house business. And it was common practice to keep stuff a secret. Common practice to keep shit a secret and let that shit go. And take some Dayquil. Common practice to let that shit go and ride. Therapy was not on nobody's mind. I didn't hear about therapy until I went to college to be a therapist. When I went to college to get a psychology degree, that's when I started learning about therapy. I wasn't nobody was bringing that shit up unless to be to make fun of it. So some chips. So yes, liquid vitamin D3. Yeah, I've been taking a lot of vitamins. Um Oh, and I made a fire ass homemade chicken noodle soup. But I added some, it was a regular chicken noodle soup, with chicken, celery, and carrots and shit like that. But I put some sweet potatoes and kale in it. Ooh, it is so good. It's so fire. But I cooked a big pot of it, and I've been putting it in individual. I put it in individual mason jars and put them in the freezer. Not mason jars, storage jars. It's so good. So it wasn't Tanya's daughter, it's her niece. It's her brother's daughter. The brother was molesting the daughter. She is a stud. I think she might be in transition to be a man, maybe. Because I asked about her, and they were like, they told me she definitely was a stud, but they also was implying that she might be transitioning. But the daughter, the baby girl, is a teenager now. So even more stuff going on. So all of that was shocking to me, just how that revealed itself. And when I come back to Indiana, when I move back to Indiana, the second time, like in 2000 and no, this is the same time. The first time, my cousin Tang. All right, so back to my mother and her four cousins. So I told you about my uncle Billy. So remember, I told you she had two light-skinned girl cousins that went with their family. One stayed in Indianapolis, and one went to Chicago with her dad's people. Her name is Tang, like the drink Tang, Tange. Tang moves back to Indianapolis. And if you go back to the story that I talk about how I got my brother, how I find my aunt Tanya is through my cousin Tang, which is one of the girls that was with my mom being abused by my great grandmother. So she ended up moving. She's an adult now, and she's back in Indianapolis. Now she's back in Indianapolis, but she's a crackhead and she's a prostitute. And so, like, deep in her addiction. And so when we meet, what I learn about her is she's very, very no holds barred, very, very direct, very, very talk about shit very openly. There's no secret anything. She talks about whatever. She's the type of person that whatever she thinks comes out of her mouth. So one time, me and her is talking, and Tang. Now my mom, when it comes to my mom talking about her trauma, for you to get my mom to talk about her trauma, she gotta be drunk. She definitely not gonna do it if she's not drunk. So my mother the type that if you get to talking about shit like that, my mother would be like, child, that's the past. I ain't about to live in the past. But it also is really just her holding it in. She wants to talk about it. She wants revenge and vindication and to be heard. But because when she only gets that juice in her when she's drunk, like she only gets that vibe. My mama she talks about her problems when she's drinking, which is why she was an alcoholic and a drug addict and da da da. It is those substances that made her, because we talked about therapy. It's those substances that get her the courage to talk about shit that happened to her. Tang is the total opposite. Tang, whether she high or drunk, she's gonna tell all her business. She's gonna talk about it. She gonna keep it real and uncensored. So her and my mom one day, they both on drugs. They not high, but they both do drugs. They both crackheads within their addiction. But in this story, they're not high. So apparently they're about to go get high. From what they tell me. I'm not there. They're telling me the story. My mom is telling me the story. And then she tells me the story again when Tang is around. Because it's a funny story. It's not funny, but it's kind of funny. When in hindsight. So my mom and Tang want to go get something to eat. Because they know later on tonight they're gonna be getting high. So might as well get something to eat now. So they go Church's Chicken. So they both pull up to the Church's Chicken. And lo and behold, there's a security guard there. And the security guard is our Uncle Junior. Now, Uncle Junior is one of the men who used to molest my mom and Tang when they lived with my great grandmother. When they were being abused, because my grandmother's schizophrenic, my great grandmother's schizophrenic, and before they got taken away from her, my great grandmother's, her brothers would come over and molest my mom and Tang and the girls. And so when they come up to the Church's Chicken, Junior is the security guard of the Church's Chicken. So my mother and her, so they've seen Junior since them years. So remember, that happened when they were kids, like 5, 6, 7. And they get taken away from my grandmother when they in that age bracket. My mother was grown. She wasn't grown. She was 13. So my mom was the oldest and she was 13. So Tang had to be like 7, 10 or 10, between 7 and 10. So they have seen him since then. So it's not like this is the first time that they confronted him, and they've seen him. He's been in family gatherings. Y'all know how fucking family is. These predators be just walking around tipping. And so Tang, so they done seen him. So it's not like, ooh, dun dun dun, like this is some hard situation that's about to happen. My Uncle Junior used to come over my mama's house. And I didn't know that was their history, but he used to come over my mama house when, like, say we had a cousin named Bernice who used to come over. And one time Junior came over to see because she was staying with my mom. And so apparently my mom had already dealt with whatever she was going to deal with Junior years before. So I don't want y'all to think that this is a moment of Oh, confront him about this shit. So my mom and Tang is in the church's chicken lobby, but whatever that little room is that you take the orders in, and they're standing in line to do their order. And so they speak to my Uncle Junior. They like, hey, what's up, Junior? Talking. And my mom get in line, and she's just waiting. And Tang said, damn, Junior, blah, 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 blah. And my mama says that all of a sudden Tang say, damn, Junior, give me some money. Pay for this chicken for us. And Junior's like, Tang, I ain't got no money. I ain't got no money. You see, I'm at work and I'm trying to make the money. It's all jovial, like it's all chatting, like small talk, chit chat, laughy, laughy. And all of a sudden, Tang says, nigga, all the pussy you was sucking on us when we were like 5 and 7 years old, you owe us some money. And my mother is like, my mother is gagged. So I want you to understand my mother. My mother is not this type of person. My mother do not want to talk about this shit in public. But Tang is the opposite. So when Tang say that, my mother is like gag and kind of move over. And Tang see her move her. She was like, Moochie, bitch, I know you ain't trying to. You know that's what that motherfucker did to us when we was kids. He was sucking on our pussy. Because we were so young, he didn't want to fuck us. So, cause honey, something could happen. But he sure was sneaking down in the basement with us and sucking on our little pussies. This is at this man's job. He should be embarrassed. And everybody in the fucking place is gagged. You knew, and she just keeps talking about it. You knew better, motherfucker. You wasn't as old as you are now, but you knew better. You was in your 20s or something, and you was doing that to us. And you knew we was your family. We was your nieces and nephews, because you Mama Eula brother. You Mama Eula's youngest kid. So you knew we was kin to you, and you coming over there molesting us when we kids and we couldn't do nothing to defend ourselves. And you try to act like you ain't got no money, bitch, you can buy some motherfucking chicken. So she is saying all of this stuff. My mama is over it. My mama's so over it that she go out. She tell Tang, she give Tang the money and say, order her food for her. And go out to the car because she's so embarrassed. And so, now mind you, did he buy the chicken? No. But he's embarrassed at his job because she talked about how he was molesting her when she was 5 and 7 at the job. So she comes out the car to my mom. Now, mind you, in the chicken shop, the way she's talking is like laughing about it. It's jokes. It's a joking thing. So when she come out to the car, my mother is in the car and she's just like embarrassed. Like she's embarrassed. She's not angry because she was telling the truth. The way my mother described it was she says I wasn't angry at her because she was telling the truth. And so, but it just wasn't the right time. And so when she went back to the car, she was like, I just was embarrassed and I didn't want to I didn't want this. I just came in here to do chicken. I didn't fucking want to talk about that shit. And so when Tang comes back out to the car with the chicken, Tang is telling my mom, Tang start crying because from Tang's point of view, this is how Tang, when I talked to Tang about it, this is how Tang described it. She was like, understand that I moved to Chicago. And when I went to Chicago, nobody understood the shit that I went through as a little girl. And here I am in this scenario with the only motherfucker in the world who understands what we went through because she went through it with me. Your mother went through it with me because the other girl was too little. Now, we don't know if somebody was touching her when she was a baby, but from what we know about Sabrina, nobody was touching Sabrina yet. So the two older girls, they were doing stuff to us. And so the only girl who knew what I went through is your mother. And here we go, randomly in this church of chicken, we see one of the dudes who was molesting us, our fucking family. And for me, she was like, for me, this is the first time I've ever been in this situation and I didn't know how to handle it. And I wasn't trying to embarrass Moochie, but I just was talking about it. Like, you know, I'm telling the truth. I'm not lying. I'm telling the truth. This motherfucker did used to come down because apparently he used to take them down in the basement and just eat their coochie. 5 and 7 years old. And jack off while he doing it. And so she didn't mean to embarrass my mother. So she started crying because she didn't mean it to be harmful to my mom. And so then my mom started crying because she was like, no, you don't need to feel sorry for it. You tell the truth. The motherfucker did do that. I just didn't want to talk about it in this fucking with these strangers. And Tang was like, well, I didn't know. She was like, I don't know. I didn't know. I didn't know how I would react to this scenario because I didn't know that I was about to be in this scenario. I'm in the fucking church's chicken with the motherfucker that used to molest us. So, and then Tang had been through so much trauma. So this family Tang done passed away from cancer now. She passed away like maybe 2022. This family had wore Tang out so much. When she came back to Indianapolis, like when she was like 15, so mind you, she gets saved and took out of that horrible situation and moved to Chicago in a safe place. When she get in her teenage years, she comes back down to Indianapolis to see family, the safe ones, quote unquote, my Aunt Jo. The safe ones. She come down there to see the safe ones, and one of my Aunt Jo's sons raped my cousin Tang, which is his cousin. They all the same age. He like a year older than her when she was 15. Well, he 2 years older than her, 17. He was 17. And then he rapes her at 15. So to her, this family is full of predators. The old ones and the young ones, everybody. So I can't be safe with none of you motherfuckers. So she goes back to Chicago, the trauma of molestation, now the trauma of a new rape. And so when she comes back to, and so, this is all in the midst of which is part of why she became an addict and all this kind of stuff. So when she comes back down to Indianapolis, on her own, like as an adult to live, she hadn't, she hadn't had therapy, hadn't had to deal with the stuff. So this is the moment with my mom that she has. Facts. A girl child not safe in a family full of men. Uh-huh. And so when she when I meet her, she's just a damaged drug addict with nothing to lose, with you get what I'm saying? She's just a damaged drug addict. And so but she loved me, man. She loved me. And so later on in her life she did get clean. She actually got clean. She went to church and got saved. And so the last probably 10 years of her life, maybe 8, 10 or 8, she was sober and clean, and she had gained a little weight, and she had got cancer and then beat it, and then went into remission, and then she got cancer again. Um, and she passed away in 2022. But she just was always real. Like she was always real. Hmm. So So it was something as I was growing up and I became an adult, I just would see like it happened so many times and so many scenarios where people just was very negligent about their care for the children around them. And so that's what this case of Naziah Naziah Harris out of Detroit reminded me of. And I wanted to bring light to it. He did get arrested. He did get charged and with her murder actually, even though they haven't found her body. They found the text messages and they have found her going into the hotel with him. And so her getting off the bus and finding out and then going to the hotel with him. Yeah. So I think that story is crazy. So I wanted to bring it to y'all attention. So if y'all interested, y'all can follow and see what the update is. But yes, that's what I wanted to talk about today and tell y'all the story